The following program is rated TVMA. This program contains topics and viewpoints from metaphysical professionals. Topics, conversations, insights, and experiences are meant for a mature adult audience and may not be suitable for younger viewers. All insights, experiences, and conversations contained in this show are meant as informational. Always consult either legal or medical professionals when needed. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to Terra Turas, the Metaphysical Roundtable. 5 professional readers coming together, including Brenda Lynn, Heather Lynn, Jamie Gibson, Reverend Pat Beers, Michael, and most importantly, you, the audience. Walk with us as we cover different aspects of the metaphysical and spiritual sides of life. Bring together our insight, experience, and discussion to a roundtable event. And now, here is tonight's host.
Hey everybody. Happy Terra Turas night. It's Wednesday night. 8 p.m. Central or 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's time for our Metaphysical Roundtable. My name is Brenda, and I will be hosting tonight. I'd like to welcome you and introduce everyone on our panel. We have Michael, and we have Jamie Gibson.
Hi.
And we have Reverend Pat Beers. How is everybody?
Good.
Doing
Great.
awesome.
We had sunshine today.
Awesome.
Strange thing in the sky.
Very cool. And I love your festive hat. That you just look like you're all ready for Christmas.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Everybody get through the week okay? Is it cold? Snowy? Jamie?
Snowy. I got to have snow for the first time in like 3 decades.
Oh my.
So nice. My dog wasn't so sure at first, but then she loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw your pictures looked like a winter wonderland.
Yeah. It was really nice. I enjoyed it. Just stay
Cool.
See, it was
What about
odd. It was odd for me up here in Ohio, and I'm guessing that Pat's the same kind of way, to see snow like that down south. You know, it was kind of like an oddity.
Stay cool.
Because we up here are typical. We're used to 2, 3, 6, 8, 12.
Oh, I know. I grew up there. I grew up in Ohio. You know, I lived the first 28 years of my life in Ohio, so I know snow.
An
I know
oddity.
storms.
Stay cool.
Because it's the one thing that when we get ready to move to Florida, I'll miss some of the snow, but not that much.
Yeah.
You might
There's a
miss
nice-
the drier weather. Drier air, I should say.
Yeah.
I was going to say the humidity from where you were at in Florida to where you are now.
It's night and day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's night and day. And we were talking because Jamie was saying something about, I don't know, what state should I move in next? Because, it's, stuff
Crazy
seems to
weather.
be following me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, same here. And I was just talking with a friend of mine about that earlier today. You know, when I got here, it was like
Yeah.
Texas said, welcome home.
Or
The Llano River was flooding. Yeah. Yeah. I'd just driven through a hurricane on my way here. So, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's different. I'm still adjusting.
takes time. I'm still adjusting from California, so it's weird.
Yeah.
But it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Change is good. And I'm sorry, Pat, what was that?
I was going to say, Jamie, please don't share yet. Now, for Christmas, that'll be great, but we're doing just cool now. We have nice covering on the ground. The roads are all clear.
Yeah, you settle down now.
All right. I'll stay put for a bit.
Well, it's funny because, I'm thinking about our topic tonight, which is all about life path, destiny, self-will, what's written in the stars for us, what are soul contracts and stuff like that. And I know I followed Jamie when she moved from California to North Carolina online. I didn't literally follow her. And just so we know, watched her journey and had no idea at that time that I was going to be coming back to Texas. And, and then I ended up coming back to Texas, making a decision kind of on a whim. And there's always a question, about, is this the right thing? Am I supposed to do that? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I get that question a lot as an advisor. What am I supposed to be doing? Am I on the right path? Is this the right thing? And part of our having the human condition is that uncertainty. And even those of us who are intuitive, best professional intuitives I know question their own path and question their abilities and their ability to read things and have a hard time seeing 2 feet in front of their own face. We usually call each other. That's what I've found. But that, our topic, we touched on that a little bit last week when we were talking about our topic was magic. And, what do you do? When you feel like somebody is derailing a little, or how do you handle it, or how do you know if that's their path or not? And I am certainly one that would not claim expertise in this. Just what I feel and what's right for me. And I wanna just starting it. Maybe we could each kind of take a jab at it. Let's start with Mike.
You would pick me. I'm kind of like.
Yep. Figure you get us fighting. No.
Well,
really.
I often get that portion when people ask and they're saying, okay, what do I do here? What am I supposed to be doing? What is it that... And we talk about destiny, life path, the soul contracts, and my own personal definition, it kind of is a little bit different because I see it as a mixture. We all believe that we have a soul, and where it comes from, we might differ on, but we all agree that we've got a soul. Here's what we're doing. We also know that we are here for purpose. And then we have things to accomplish during our lifetime. And people say, okay, where does destiny, free will? Because you can't have both. And I turn around and I tell them, no, absolutely you can have both. There's no challenge in between. And I tell them like this, look, when you decided that you were going to pick this lifetime in the here and now, with the parents that you do, the family, and the situations that can present themselves. It's not that you are saying, I'm going to have this happen, then this, then this, then this. Predestiny to like that is, there's still some randomness in there. But looking at the overall, you're saying that chances are I'm going to experience this magnitude of things in my lifetime. And that's destiny. Then we get into free will. And we turn around and we say, look, destiny says that if I'm in New York, my destiny tells me that I'm going to have to go some point to Chicago, and then to Miami, and then to Dallas, Texas, and then to Washington, Spokane, Washington, and I'm going to wind up in San Diego. And that's the end of my life. Free will, for me, turns around and says the following. I'm going to start in New York City, and then dependent upon how quickly I go from point A to point B is my own free will. Am I going to make just a straight line and make a beeline and I'm going to get there as quick as I can? Or am I going to take 15 years and meander over all of God's green earth getting things done? That's free will. By the time your life is done, you will wind up in San Diego. There is, for me, no ifs, ands, or buts. But in between each major stepping point, that's where your free will comes in. That's also where we get our experience. And that's where we learn and experience what we wanted. And that's part of the soul contract for me. When we look at that and say, okay, my soul contract is I want to experience this kind of love. I want to experience these kinds of friends. I have 18 different diversities that I want to experience somewhere in my life. And then everything after that becomes the point of saying, how? Where is this all going to fall into place? So we do make a contract before we come here and get stuffed into this body. And then, again, we change from point A to point B on to the next in our free will. And this makes things seem chaotic, or it may seem the total randomness, but it's not. I had read somewhere before, if you take a look at your life, if you go back at the very tail end of your life, if you were to go back and look at everything that happened in your lifetime, it will read like the most finely scripted and written novel that you would ever see in your life. It's just during any given point in time, it seems chaotic. And it seems like we're out of control, or we don't have a means to do things. But that's where choice and free will really come in. Anyhow, that is what my personal kind of interpretation is. I hope that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like it a lot. It reminds me of when I was in school and had to get my homework done. In a way, like, almost like if I want to enjoy it, then then I need to do it in the most efficient way possible. I think that's a lot of times what thought triggered in my head from what you said. And it's like some people want to go the fastest way to it. I guess that's my point, and bypass the chaotic part. A lot of times the chaotic part is just part of it, right?
And that's it. Is when I've had multiple people ask, they say, okay, what about the people that pass away at a very young age, or what would seem like they only really are halfway through their life? And I tell them, they accomplished everything that they set out to do, and now they're moving on to the next ride, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have a difficult time trying to understand that, because they're uncertain at that point.
Yeah. I have a hard time grasping that. For sure.
Why so?
Just sometimes, there's uncertainty. Like, I don't know that there's just uncertainty, probably because of the emotional charge of it. Mm-hmm. I get a lot of grief, that, a lot of clients that are grieving, and what seems to be such an unnecessary loss, that sometimes just the emotional upheaval of it, the intensity of it can make me question, even though in my mind, I know that that's true. I mean, and in my heart, I know that that's true. But man, when things get emotionally charged up, it can just derail us from feeling, from acknowledging it. Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm curious because I always take time to listen when other people are saying, It is more difficult, I have found, at points in time, dependent upon someone's theology, spirituality, or otherwise, as to at what level are they interpreting, things that we're saying.
Right. Well, and what they're allowed to interpret also for themselves, because sometimes certain religions or philosophies can be, I don't want to say forbid it, but say that it's wrong. And that can be,
most of them do.
Confining.
Yeah, I know.
Most of them do. Go back and take a look, Pat, when we were younger, all of us. Since we don't have Heather here on the other end of the yardstick as the youngest one, when we were younger, we didn't dare talk about soul contracts or past life or anything. You did not. And that's one of the barriers that I find people are in between. They're trying to awaken, and yet that fear of an unknown becomes an obstacle.
Yeah. Jamie.
Yeah. I mean, I see it pretty much like Mike does. I mean, to me, when I'm asked those kinds of questions, I try to say, you've chosen the life you're going to live. You just forgot you chose it. You know what I mean? You made the contract. You just forgot all the details. But it's kind of like having an outline for a book, and you're going to have point A, 1, 2, 3. But the in-between stuff is that's where the free will is. And for me, that comes in kind of like those kids' books that have all the different endings, depending which door you want to open, because you still have choices to make, and you have choices. So, it's difficult for some people, and it took some time for me to understand, like Mike was saying, that, people have finished their lives. They don't remember that they said that. I don't remember that I agreed to that with them, but it is something that happens. But it allows them to move on for the next lifetime where they're going to learn something else or something more. So I find it super fascinating, just really, really fascinating. And I just like to kind of delve into it. But I understand too, what you were saying, Brenda, that when it gets to the ego emotion, that's the part where the grief comes in and everything. And that's the ego playing. That's not anything more than that. I mean, yes, there's the emotion in the heart, but it's the ego that won't let you understand or believe that this is okay. Does that make sense? I hope.
It's pretty powerful. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it does. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. And for me too, with, like I've said before, with some of the work that I do lately, for some reason, that I've been helping people as they're, coming to the end of this lifetime. And it's really interesting to tune into those situations, because it's almost like it's not like they do a checklist necessarily, but it's kind of like this knowing that, I did what I wanted to do, and they're complete. They are complete. It's just we left behind don't feel complete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True that.
Yeah.
Yep. It can feel very incomplete.
Yeah. But then, that's why I'm so fascinated by, past lives and, lives that are coming and all that kind of stuff, because it's this really bizarre 8-dimensional chessboard that I really like to kind of like delve into. And you can sometimes see that there's a pattern, which is the karma. There's a pattern that's going on from lifetime to lifetime too with the contract, because you want to experience it you want to experience those lessons in different ways a lot of times.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Some things to think about. The 8-layered chessboard.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm listening. I'm just agreeing.
It's ironic listening to her talking, and I can see we all have somewhat of a similar pattern or thought process, So it tells us if we were to take an aggregate approach to everything, it's got to be somewhere in that kind of an area to say, here's what's really going on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it's there's depth to it, that's for sure.
Yeah. And you can get to an aha moment with it too, like when you're going on the path and you're, trying to evolve into this spiritual kind of thing that we do or whatever, or other people. And it's just those aha moments of, oh, okay, so that's why this was connected. And that's why these people are in my life, for different reasons. But they were supposed to help me with something. I was supposed to help them with something. Sometimes one of us don't follow through on our contract. Okay, but you did what you were supposed to do. And then I can move on.
Now, I have a question. I don't mean to interrupt. What do you find when somebody does not fulfill their soul contract, or they did not fulfill by choice something in their life? What do you find? Does that carry over?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that the two people will carry over again unless they choose to. Mm-hmm. But, for example, a lot of times with romantic relationships, I'll get these kinds of questions. And it's a lot of times one person may be just too afraid to allow themselves to have that happiness, or allow themselves to walk into something from the ego fear. And then their free will comes in and they make a choice. And there's nothing that's going to make them do it, because those relationships are still, from my point of view, those relationships are still part of a free will choice versus a destiny choice. Mm-hmm. Or not destiny choice, but a destiny. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that person who didn't fulfill, they'll go back and learn this again and again until they kind of get it. But it'll be in different ways in the next lifetime. It won't be exactly the same situation, but the same theme.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's why people feel that they have, I've done this before. I feel like I've done this before, but they don't remember that it didn't come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
That's the piece that I was thinking about when Jamie was talking, that I was going to talk about, is a lot of times I experience it and my clients experience, and sometimes I experience it through my clients in their experience being an empath, is that, whoa, this person, I know this person. Mm-hmm. I know you, but I don't know you, but I know you. Yeah. How, what is this, and sometimes those connections can be pretty strong.
Yeah.
Sometimes the contract might be, well, you can decide to go there or not.
Right.
Because oftentimes excitement and fear can be so difficult to discern in the body, or that emotion. Like, is this fear, is this excitement that I want to move toward, or do I want to run?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And that's why I have those issues with people, the stereotypicals, oh, they're my soulmate, we're supposed to be together. I'm like, yes, they're a soulmate, but soulmates aren't always good. You're soulmates because you're supposed to learn something from one another, but it doesn't mean you're going to walk down the aisle into the rainbow happily ever after.
Right. You can say, oh yeah, I remember this. I didn't like that very much. Next.
See, but most people get to that point
free will.
When they say, oh, I don't like that very much. That's the point that they start to realize they may have done this before. Mm-hmm. That's funny when people do that.
That's what I mean. Yep.
Yeah.
That memory, that cell memory. Well, mm-hmm. Pat, you're awfully quiet.
Well, I guess I approach this differently than you all, of course, being a little bit older, having had 2 near deaths. The first one was when I was age 6. I have always looked at it, what do I need to do? Why am I here? Some people that we meet come into our lives to teach us lessons that we really don't want to deal with. And when I had the second near death, I was 31, and I didn't want to stay here. I wanted to leave. And I had a very emotional life growing up. The near death at 7, finding out I was adopted at 12 and a half, and blah, blah, blah. being psychic and 65 years ago, nobody wanted to hear any of that crap, you know? And when I read for people and it's a young person, I remind them that there's no answer sometimes. And when it's an older person, I try to get them to, what are your memories? What do you feel that the lesson you may have learned with them, through them, around them? And especially when people go, I used to like so-and-so, but oh my gosh, I can't stand the sight of them. Their voice is driving me crazy. And I go, well, what do you think happened? Well, you know, they realize, number one, they can't help them because they don't want to help themselves. Or did you help them with everything you could possibly help them with? Or did they help you with everything that they could possibly help you with? And now you're not hating each other. You're just growing in different directions. And I think that's the biggest thing I deal with a lot. I have two friends that have just lost their mothers in the past few weeks, and one of them the past few days. And it's like they're so upset, and yet I say, well, tell me about your mom. What was life like? And they'll start reliving really good incidents. On the other hand, they start reliving really bad stuff. And I'll say, okay, so what's the lesson in that? What will you carry forward from this? What will help you to understand? What will bring you peace? And I try to get them to go within and start thinking about it and looking at it maybe in a different way. I feel like we meet everybody for a reason, good, bad, or ugly. I often have contact with people, either their children have overdosed on drugs. And when I say children, I'm talking people into their 40s and their 50s even. And it's just sometimes real hard. And I remind them that this is a choice that they made. We can't change anybody's mind. That old saying, you can drag that horse to the trough, but if he's not going to drink, he's going to die first because he chooses not to drink that water. And it's really interesting sometimes. But I guess my approach to it is to get them to look at it and tell me experiences and kind of get them to go where they need to go with this. I had a friend met, he was traveling in Russia, and he met a gentleman there, and the gentleman spoke no English and Dave spoke no Russian, and through an interpreter, they came to this conclusion, and he did not believe in past lives. And they came to the conclusion that they had been together in a past life and had been warriors on opposing sides. And it actually took them back to that space and that time at the same time. And he said, now that I think about it, it must have been hysterical, that poor interpreter sitting there, and we're both yelling at each other and laughing at the same time because they both realized they had this flash, they had this scene in their head that they knew. They killed each other. They had just absolutely killed each other. And it was just kind of comical. So I guess I come, and I've always asked to be shown, what do I need to do? What can I do? What should I do? And when I had the second near death and I didn't want to come back, they told me I would come back. I would go through all the emotional turmoil I had gone through at this point, and probably more. And my contract had not been fulfilled. I didn't know about past contracts when we come at that time. You know, I'm 31. I'm still trying to deal with the fact that I'm psychic and don't like it. And yeah, and you'll redo all of this, and it may be more intense. And they said, your work's not done. You have things you need to do. People need to help. All right. So I came back. But it's just interesting. I just feel like everybody's put in our path for a reason. Either we're teaching them or they're teaching us. And it's just kind of hard sometimes to figure out which is which, because when we're on the learning side, it's usually not so fun.
Right. Yeah, it's not so fun, and it's not so clear. You know, it's confusing. And those are times where, you know, there are times when I have to say, I don't know. You know, I don't know.
And that's all we can say, because they don't really want answers. I think that's why I try to get them to tell me something that I can maybe use as an anchor to try to help them, because neither one of us knows. And
right.
Usually the children who pass quickly are here to teach us a lesson in some way. You know, just crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
Brenda, what are your thoughts on it? Yeah. Everybody else has chimed in. I want to hear what you have to say.
Brenda.
Well, I talked a little bit at the beginning. A lot of it for me is I would say that in a lot of ways, I don't really know. One thing I definitely don't like to do is critique somebody's path or critique their spiritual growth. I hear those terms a lot about spiritual growth. I think I can only, like, I can experience an aha moment with somebody or something like that, but I don't feel that I can. I don't feel that I can determine whether somebody is spiritually growing. And I get that question a lot, about judgment that people have, about their spiritual growth or somebody else's. And so, in a lot of ways, I don't know. Sometimes I have a really hard time with the truth that y'all talked about, of people who go too soon, supposedly. But I think that's because it's the emotional charge. Sometimes these things don't make sense, and they can't make sense in the human condition. We can't make sense of it. One thing that I feel like I have witnessed, is that although these things that feel tragic and painful, and our human self just feels weak and like it's falling apart, and our spirit selves are going, yes, we're growing. I'm beefing up over here, because the spirit self thrives. The spirit self thrives, it grows. And I don't understand it, but I do. I am aligned with, we're growing in our lifetimes. I definitely feel cell memory from past lives, a lot of things where I know somebody, but I don't know them, but I really know them. And it turns out that, yep, I really do know them. And that stuff is, you can't just dismiss those experiences, so, and a lot of times I feel that when when a client calls and says, I don't think I'm on my path, can you look at this? They're always on their path. I always feel a resounding, oh yes, you are definitely on your path. You're right where you're supposed to be. And it's the same thing, that I say, although this is really hard on the human self, the spirit self is just totally beefing up here, So, sometimes I feel mixed or tormented, about it, because it can be confusing. But I definitely, I do relate to just about everything everybody said. I like that. What did you call it, Jamie? 8-layered chess game, or 8-layered something. It's like chess, a grid, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating. What do you all do when you get that question? Am I on my path? How does that translate for you all? Just somebody jump in.
A lot of times when I get that question, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times people are expecting, when they ask that question, they're expecting me to say something like, oh, you're supposed to be on a path like Mother Teresa or Gandhi or something crazy like that, when in reality, it's like, yeah, you're supposed to be in research, or you're supposed to be, teaching kids. It doesn't have to be anything grand, but for some reason, when people ask about, am I on the right life path, they think it's supposed to be something bigger than what they're actually doing. So I find there's a lot of dissatisfaction among a lot of people. But when I feel that from them, that dissatisfaction, I try to show them the gifts in what they're doing. Like, if it weren't for you, these kids wouldn't be, learning like they do. And you're supposed to be helping bring them to another level. So I try to help that way, because a lot of times people are disappointed when I say, no, you're not Gandhi. Sorry.
Right. But don't you think that their path, I mean, this is what I experience, is that their path is huge.
Yeah. They
it's
don't
just
see
not
it that
coming
way.
with,
Yeah.
right, because they think it should come with the fame or something. But their path is huge, I think.
No, I agree. That's why,
Everybody's.
but usually people, when they're asked, not always, but a lot of times they're hoping, it's kind of like, starting to wake up to realizing you're psychic and you think you're supposed to be seeing the technicolor pictures and, the heart singing and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't work that way. And life path is kind of like that too. You pay attention, like we said last week, pay attention to how it feels in your gut, and you'll know that you're on the right life path, but you've got decisions to make while you're on that path.
I will often ask them, if you weren't doing what you're doing now, do you feel you've accomplished all you can accomplish with what you're doing right now? What would you be doing? What if all things were perfect and you had all the money you needed and that was not an issue? Your life was okay, not perfect, but okay. What would you really like to do? What's your desire? What's that hole within you that you're trying to fill? And again, to get them to back up and maybe look at what's going on a little bit, because a lot of times they don't appreciate all that they've really done, and maybe they have done all they can do with this position. So what would be your next thing you think you'd like to try? Reach for the stars. What would it be? Because maybe you can't get that star, but you can get closer to the moon.
I would agree.
I relate to that.
Oh, yeah, I do too. And I'm very much like Jamie. You get a lot of people that might ask, and especially because we work more on a national and a global kind of line. We get people that will call in and say, what is my life path? Or am I on the right path? And I kind of sigh because it's not an easy question to answer, But I ask him, I say, okay, look, from me as a reader, you feel like you are right in the middle of exactly what you should be doing, because you can feel when somebody's way out of balance, way off track. You get that feeling, and you ask a couple of questions to get where they are, what they're doing, and you can help guide them back. But you also, like Pat saying, if you were not in your current circumstance, what would you be doing?
Yeah, that's the kind of work that I love to do, because I am more of what I call a creative intuitive or a creative psychic, not just predictive. And so I like to help people create. When we're shifting on our path and it's time to make a change, it feels like something. And so that's what I feel for in others and clients and stuff like that. It feels like something, and we can start to create from there. My question oftentimes is, well, if you didn't have to worry about social status or money or anything like that, what would you be doing? And then, like getting it as close to that as possible, like what Pat was saying. That's literally the questions that I asked, very similar. Yeah.
I would wholeheartedly agree.
And we do get insights, and we do get hints, and we do get feelings, but if we throw it out and they don't relate to it, maybe that's down the road a little further. They haven't gotten to that junction yet, that they need to see it.
Right.
Strange worlds we live in.
Yep, for sure. And it can be confusing. It can get a little murky in those waters. Get a little deep.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting, this is an interesting path that, doing readings now, coming from corporate America for so long and doing this as a full-time gig now, it's just really interesting to realize that I've been doing it all along in other ways, even when I was in the corporate world. It just looked different then. But now it's more defined than it was before. But I was on my path. I just didn't know it.
It's odd. You say corporate America, coming from much the same kind of a background in corporate America, allowed me to interact with a level or a scope of people that otherwise I might not have ever gotten to do. And it is somewhat of a different mindset altogether.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times, yeah. I agree.
But each of us, I'm sure, have all been at a point or at a place to where we have learned something dynamic from our job, not just because we have a job that is making money or doing a particular thing. We learn something that we would not have otherwise at all.
Mm-hmm.
Had anyone told you 20, 30 years ago you'd be doing what you're doing now, what would your answer have been?
No way.
No way.
No way. Even
hell no.
Even 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh, right.
Yeah.
6 months ago, if somebody would have told Pat that she would have been doing a web radio show like this.
Well, me too.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. All of us.
What am I doing now?
Yeah. But I can just see Pat's reaction.
In my mind that I didn't think this was on my path, but apparently.
Yeah.
I could just imagine Pat's reaction going, no, hell no, I don't think so, no. Next.
Same here. No, Brenda's like, come on, you can do it. I'm like, I don't know. Okay, we'll try.
Well, you were actually, I was surprised. You were an easy yes to me. I mean, I thought you felt resonance.
I was laughing at you the whole time.
You said yes.
But
you said yes right away.
That was
not right away.
Pat was very hesitant.
Arguing already, you were getting the end result.
Pat
you
was
want that triptych that says you're going from here to there. No side stops, no diversions, and it just doesn't work that way.
No. Oh, look at this.
Yeah.
Shiny object.
Exactly.
Pat was very much.
Yeah.
Pat was the same way when I told her, and I approached it from a very different angle. I didn't really ask. I said, Pat, you're going to do a show with us. And she had like 400 questions. And when you know Pat and she's asking these kinds of questions, it's those questions that are polite, trying to dissuade you from continuing doing what you're doing before she gives you the finger,
Look over here. There's something over there you really need to see, Michael. Let's talk about that for a while.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest. Part of me thought this wasn't going to happen anyway. So it's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
What episode are we on now, Mike?
We're actually on the 5th episode.
Fifth, yeah.
For the people that are kind of watching and in the chat room, the first 4 episodes that we did, we started on YouTube, and we're doing YouTube Live. And we kind of noticed that we weren't reaching, not a broad audience, but we weren't having the impact that we wanted. So tonight was our first night that we wanted to try to do more of Facebook Live chat, and tie up an hour and a half of everybody's time online.
What are they going to do next? What are they going to do next?
Well, next, we're going to take a break.
Good.
And when we come back, I hope to talk about our paths and personally how we personally know that we're on our path beyond the philosophy of it. Yeah. So we'll be back in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
Here comes Pat.
Here I am. Got all the critters back.
And we're back, right?
Yes.
We're back live.
Yes.
Yes. Welcome back. So, for those of you who are watching, we're watching for your questions. So if you have any questions on our topic, we're not doing many readings, but we are doing questions on our topic. Feel free. You can ask any of us a question. I think our names are up by us, but just to show you again, we got Mike, wave Mike. This is Michael. We got Jamie Gibson.
Hi.
Wave. And Reverend Pat Bears.
Hi, guys.
And I'm Brenda Lynn. We are missing Heather Lynn. She is watching one of her darling children do a Christmas show. So if you have a question for us, just put it in comments, and we'll be alerted. So, when we decided on doing this topic, I think it was Sunday that we started talking about it, really. I thought back to just reflecting on my life, and the radical change that I went through. And I went through a period of 3 to 4 years where I had a lot of resistance to opening up and being a little more authentic, shall we say, about who I am and what I'm about and the direction I needed to go. And also that my career work life, that is to say what I do for a living, needed to come in alignment with my life purpose. So oftentimes they're two different, they can be compartmentalized. When your spiritual life is in one compartment, and then your public life or your work life is in another. And mine was coming to a place where it needed to merge, and I was not happy about that. I'm sure that I went into that chaos that we've been talking about, and I stayed there for way longer than I needed to, just because I had so much resistance. I was like, Pat, I didn't want to be this. This is not what I had in mind. And I'm sure that part of that struggle was my path too. But man, I think I really, I submerged myself in it a bit much. And so, it's when I started to go with that, and when I said to God and the universe, what the F ever. I mean, that's literally because I was just in that kind of pain, and it was self-inflicted pain because it was just me resisting. That was it, really. There's a lot more to it. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that. That's the 8-layered chess game that Jamie was talking about. But there's that I call that period I call the dark night of the soul, and we'll have that topic another time. But I went through a dark night of the soul, man. I was locked in. I was socked in for a long time.
Really?
And so, long time. Yep, a very long time I resisted.
Yeah.
And so to do a show like this and to be like wide open,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little shy about that.
I kind of figured that everybody would. And Brenda, you and I spoke about this when when it really started to take fruition years ago. You and I had mentioned to each other that we wanted to do a show together.
Yep.
And we finally, when I finally said, okay, here's what I need to do. Here are the things that I've got to do.
Yeah.
And you and I, we agreed, and we found, I said, here are the other people that I want to get. And you found Jamie. I'm like, that's awesome.
Right.
Everybody was on that edge of like, because I know Heather Lynn is the same way.
Yeah. Because what I had in mind was a radio show without my face. That changes everything. I was not thinking we were going to be like you know.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of what it started off as, until I started thinking about it more, that we are in a very, very social media centric, to where people like to interconnect and see. And now that we have the capability, I said, why not? Why not take advantage of this? Because
Right.
I don't know of any other places out there that we have a group of readers that are all coming together for the sole purpose of helping other people in life find a piece of information, find something that is going on, find, a little bit of insight. And if it sparks a conversation in their life, that's awesome.
Right. And I had that same resistance to doing this as I did back when. It was a long time ago. But I had that same feeling of resistance. And so that is one of the ways that I recognize for me that I'm on my path. I'll feel some resistance, but I won't shut down from it. And that's how I know that, maybe I need to explore this,
But see, don't you also find that we think it's a choice, and yet you just keep getting pushed and the doors keep closing down. And we all have had that double life. We had that professional life. I was a realtor and a broker for 28 years. And when people found out that I did this toward the end of my career, well, is this the house for me? What's going to, and it's like, it just happens. You think you have a choice, but guess what, folks? I think it's kind of predestined that this is what you're going to do.
No, I agree. It took 2 layoffs within a 3 or 4 year period. I was laid off twice before it got through my head. It's like, I'm supposed to be doing something else,
Yeah.
And then this thing, like Brenda was saying, I would have been much more comfortable if it was just radio, just my voice, which is why it was really comfortable to be on the hotline that we're on too, because I can still hide. And then it's like, no, we're going to do this on YouTube. And I'm like, okay, you guys are pushing me here. And I just realized while you were talking, Brenda, why I've been feeling so cranky today is because we're on Facebook and I can't hide. And I'm not happy about it.
Yep.
But it's supposed to be. I mean, it's just another.
No, it is. But that's my resistance.
You're exposing my double life here. You're exposing my whatever. There's no more going to a party and just saying, I don't know.
Yeah,
fun.
Even though this is the path, I'm still resisting it, which is why, even though I know I was supposed to move here to where I am now, I'm still finding myself resisting doing what I have to do now that I'm here.
Yep.
See,
for me, and it's ironic, I checked in the chat room just for a second because I wanted to see what was going on. There are some people that I know that are in there. One, Jared's in there, Pat. And he runs a metaphysical shop up in Sandusky. And I think you said you were going there, what, Friday?
Friday. Mm-hmm.
So Jared knows us as metaphysical readers as well as normal kind of people. Now, there's another lady that's in there, Tina, that I went to school with. And this is her first exposure to me as more the metaphysical reader. Now, you go back a couple of years, there's no way in hell. I'm very much like you. Go back a couple of years, even a year. There's no way in hell I would have been caught dead doing this. Because you feel like you're exposing yourself to this world that sees you in a very certain box. And now they're seeing, here's what we do in the other side of life. So it makes you sit up and go, there's a pucker factor to it.
Yeah.
I'm going to apologize to Jared now because he had a very professional life before the metaphysical store. And he's a good reader. He's a great reader. He doesn't like to read because he doesn't want people to see it, So when we would take him, we did fairs at Port Clinton. And we would get busy, the established ones of us. So I went back to the gal that was booking us, and I said, "Hey, give Jared some, and because that's okay, but I do it privately. I don't want people to know I do this." And he's a good reader, but he still does that. He still wants to have that anonymity, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It just kind of tickles me because he's great, but he just wants to stay in that little shell and do it. Don't, Wizard of Oz, don't look at the curtain. Don't look at the curtain.
I understand that 100%. I get that.
Yeah.
Hey, Pat.
Yeah.
I do too. Yeah. And when I think back to, again, to that place, and Jamie, when you were talking about layoffs, there was a period of time where, when I had to make the switch, something that I realized during that dark night period was, I got this feeling of, I need to work with the grain of myself, not against the grain. And so what I'm doing isn't working. First of all, my personality, I don't play well with others. I just don't. I don't. I mean, y'all are special, but I don't play well. I don't play well with others. I don't do well. I'm self-directed. I'm driven. I like to go in my direction, and I do well with that. So, to be in, force myself to be in corporate America, where I had these fancy titles like director of corporate communications and director of corporate training, and all of this stuff, and I was just miserable. You can't. It doesn't matter what kind of a title I have or anything like that. I need to be working with the grain of me. And so all I can tell you is that I had all kinds of character defects showing up left and right. I mean, I was a terrible person when I worked in corporations, and now doing what I do, self-directed, working independently, these are all very positive characteristics in the work that I do now. So even if there's another shift, see, there's something about your life path and changes and getting derailed and getting back on and, stuff like that, like the chaos that Mike was talking about. Sometimes, that's what it is. You just, like we were talking about earlier, squirrel, I'm going to go this way. And wait a second, let me get back on track. This thing about not playing well with others, that is a significant part of who I am. And I didn't like that. So, I was trying to force myself to be something, to be someone that I'm not, that doesn't resonate to me. So, every time I turned around, I was hurting. People weren't happy with me. I wasn't happy with them. And so all that is me working against the grain of myself. I don't have those issues in my work now. And it's not like I don't communicate with people. I'm constantly in contact with people, but it's different. And I can be self-directed. I can work at my pace. I can do my thing. That's one of the ways that I know that I'm on my path. That's one of the questions I ask. Am I working with the grain of Brenda, or am I working against?
And see, that's one of the things I tell people is think about the big heavy ropes, the big heavy ropes like they used to tie the boats up and stuff with. And it starts to fray, and a little piece breaks here and a little piece breaks there. And all of a sudden it's like, what's changed? I'm the only one who changed. And I said, what they're doing is they're cutting those little threads that are binding you. Think of Gulliver's Travels, and when he's all tied down and all he has to do is move, right, and all the ropes aren't holding him anymore. So we can go we can go willingly, or they'll just say, watch this.
See, in my side, it was ironic. Listening to everybody talk, it reminds me very much of my mentor who has passed. His name was Richard. And we began talking about this very subject years ago. And he goes, when you get sidetracked, he goes, I need you to think of it in this fashion. Now, if you knew Richard, you would understand that he's a very physical kind of person, okay? He's a man's man, very physical. And he said, so you're on your highway and you're going along and everything is going fine. He goes, sooner or later, you're going to get tired of driving on this highway because it's bland, it's boring. So you're going to pull off You're going to stop and get gas. You're going to go to McDonald's. He goes, now because we're guys, we're probably going to stop the possibility at the adult store, or maybe even go visit the ladies at this particular, like, bunny ranch. He goes, now think about this. He goes, because in between putting gas in your car and going to McDonald's and getting something to eat and all the hectic things that you might run into there, he goes, and then especially because you're over here at the bunny ranch having a good time with these ladies, he goes, you will completely forget what you were doing. And you will become so frustrated because what you feel, you're not where you are supposed to be. He goes, that's when people really start to tend to lose it. Because all they can think of is just all of this anguish and whatnot, this quagmire that they are currently stuck in. He goes, all you have to do is remember, walk out, get on your car, and get back on the on-ramp and keep going. It's a choice. And that stuck with me. I wish that I could have recorded Richard, because some of the things that he told me are just phenomenal. I can't repeat a lot of the words or the situations that he would use. I'd really have to clean it up and make it PG-13, but just an amazing way that he had of getting somebody to understand a very complex situation. It was amazing. But that's how he started to help me understand that you can get back on track. You can get back to refocusing your life. This doesn't feel right anymore. Well, that's interesting. I'm going to go that direction.
Yep. Which is different than going off on that other one that you were talking about, I don't know, going into the adult store.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is like squirrel. And then getting back on the track. Okay. Going on the off ramp, which off ramp you take, that's a little different to me. That feels more like path, like life path, destiny, that sort of thing. Yeah.
No, he had I told him he had a physical, I don't know, fixation might be the right word, but he really would. He helped me understand some things in graphic ways, because he would take the idea and just blow it into this unreal situation, and either make it very humorous or very angry until you could realize what he was trying to tell you.
Right.
So it was interesting.
He had to shock you into coming out of your comfort zone. And the only way where he wanted you to be was to shock your socks off.
I'm going to tell you, ladies, the one that sticks out in my mind, a little off topic, it's very short.
Oh.
He said,
strap in.
There's two male bulls standing on top of the hill, looking down at all the females down there. One's very old bull, one's a very young bull. And the young bull goes, let's go down and romp with one of these ladies. And we'll run down there and just have a good time. And the old bull looks at him and he goes, let's walk down and have fun with all of them. It showed me the difference of characteristics between being so young, passionate, and wanting to hurry up and do something, versus when you get older and wiser and you take your time and you accomplish many things.
Well, and it's not squirrel for too long.
No. And that was a very clean version of how Richard explained it to me. Trust me.
Oh, it's funny.
So, Jamie.
Yes.
What are you thinking?
I'm still, that aha moment I had a little bit ago, I'm still digesting it. Sorry. Because I like to hide. I just do. I'm the backup singer. I'm the person that does the scenery in the background, all of that kind of thing. I don't like to be, I don't even like, I had a surprise birthday party when I was 18 years old. When everybody jumped out at me, I ran out of the house. And I was shaking the rest of the night. That's just how I am. So I'm just kind of sitting with this.
Do you find it difficult to do that?
To do what?
To be in the
Yes.
screen, knowing
Yes.
that there are other people watching.
Especially people who know me. Yeah. Yeah. Because this isn't even really accepted in my immediate family either. Yep.
I would agree.
So
There
I'm
are
really
people.
putting myself out there, you know.
I would agree. There are people in my family that wonder at times what I really do. You
Yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Or, you
Yeah.
know, people I went to grade school with, they're on Facebook. Hello. Who don't really know this is me doing
Yeah.
this. So
you're sitting there going, surprise!
no, I'm kind of like, can I have a microphone like yours?
Yeah. See, it's why I love this thing. I love it because I'll just sit here and
I know.
people will see eyebrows and that's it. You know?
Yeah.
We're waiting on that desktop microphone you keep talking about, not the Groucho Marx
Yeah.
one.
I think
I'm-
that was 3 weeks ago.
If I can do it, you can do it. Hello.
You know what's really funny is I graduated from high school in 1964. It was not my last reunion, not the 50th one, but the one before. I had finally put retired realtor broker and put on my card medium and psychic. And I couldn't believe 5 of my female classmates came up to me and told me that they were also, they weren't telling anybody. And I think,
Right.
guys, get over it. You are what you are. You're going to find yourself talking to people and saying things. Oh, that's interesting. How did you know? Well, I just kind of knew. Well, and you can't explain your way out, so you may as well own it. But it was just, and I mean, some of them were ones that I just, there's some I would have expected, a couple of them, but there were some that they were so nose in the ear and snobbish that I thought, oh my gosh. But, fascinating.
Yeah, I think that for me and a lot of people that I know, it's part of the reason that I had so much resistance to it is because back then I didn't have anybody to talk to about it, and I think that that's hugely a part of my path is to hand off what I've been given and to show compassion, and to be somebody that somebody can come to, even in my family, and others like your friends, like you're talking about. Everybody has intuition. Some of us more strongly than others, and some of us it is our path to do this kind of work. But the thing about it is I know when I'm on my path. I know there's a feeling, like I said earlier, there's a feeling of, yep, I'm definitely in the rhythm and I'm definitely moving in the right direction. And then there can be a feeling of, ooh, I don't know, that scares me a little. And then when I get that feeling, it means I probably need to take a look at that and don't go, oh, squirrel, and stay present to what this is, and explore it to see if that's, something I want to do. But, there are those things. But I wished that I had somebody, or that I felt comfortable with somebody, that I could talk to about it, because I really, it's just not something that I could say, hey, I didn't have,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I didn't have anybody in my family that was, went through, at least not that I know of. I can't say that it never happened, but at least not that I know of. I don't know, so I would like to, hopefully I could be somebody safe, where we can discern which is the squirrel, which is my path. What is working with the grain of myself? What off ramp should I take? I mean, we all have these little ways of putting it together. And so, there's something for everyone. Like everyone can pick up on something and say, oh yeah, I really relate to that. And so that's kind of my feeling on this and this show's topic.
I have 2 questions for everybody. When you went from your day job, so to speak, and transitioned into being a full-time reader, how long did it take for you to feel comfortable? I don't want to say knowing that you made the right choice, but feel comfortable in the choice that you made. Brenda?
I have moments, honestly. I have moments. I still have moments.
Really?
And part of my resistance is it's that resistance, of knowing that I'm facing some fears here, and it is part of my path. But I have moments. I go up and down. I question it. I do. But mostly, what's that?
When you transitioned from and became a full-time metaphysical reader, as in that's, and people ask what makes a professional reader. I tell people, look, the word profession means this is your main way that you make a living. Professional is a very wide open topic, especially in our realm. But when did you feel comfortable knowing? How long did it take from stopping your day job to being in your vocation? A couple of months, a couple of years?
That's what I'm saying. I still question it. And it's been a lot of years.
Wow.
It's been 15, 17 years.
Yeah.
What about you?
I still question it too. I mean, it's been 5 years, I think, since I've been doing this full time. But I mean, I think I even asked Brenda last week, I'm like, am I doing the right thing, or am I supposed to go back to corporate? I mean, I still, every once in a while, it still hits me, but it's been easy when I can be on the phone or, but this or doing workshops or something, that's where and that's probably just my resistance and my fear that's, kind of messing with me at the time. But I don't know if I know I'm doing the right thing, but I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can relate to that. What about you, Pat?
As long as I felt like I was helping people, I was okay. But I had a very dear friend who was an attorney who was also a member of the Theosophical Society. And I was fearful of not being right, of losing my ability to do that. And it's like the impact of the responsibility, we're just answering questions. We're just talking like we're all talking here. And then you find out somebody comes back to you and says, thank you for helping me make this major decision. Well, I didn't know I was helping you make a decision, or maybe I would have stated it a little differently or something. And he used to say, well, you're never going to lose it. You've been doing it, he told me, yourself since you're a kid. And he said, quit doing it. You thank God for doing the best you can do with what you've got. And I think the professional part comes because we all have that fiduciary responsibility in our hearts that says we have to tell you the truth. We can't just make up stuff because we think that's what you want to hear. We have to tell you what our heart gives us to give you. Good, bad, or ugly. We find a way to let you come to your own conclusion. We plant the seed and water it well and pray that you pay attention. So
that was the same way. I think for me personally, it took almost a couple of years, because on my end, from the financial aspect of being, Pat knows simply because she knows me really well, and I've spoken to Brenda about it before. I stopped and asked my wife, Shelley, look, I think, and she goes, if you feel that way, then make the jump. I said, what happens if I fail? She goes, we'll find our way through it. Don't worry. If that's what you feel that you need to do, then do it. And it's an amazing kind of thing, because before, nobody ever really gets that kind of support very often in their life. Somebody that is rock solid going, if that's what you feel, go do it. So it took me time because I was uncomfortable. Am I doing the right thing? Am I making the money that we need to have for the household? All of these things. And a year and a half later, I'm like, you know what? This is what's going to happen come hell or high water. You feel that draw, that pull to doing it. Okay, here's my second question.
Okay, but may I comment first for that?
Yep.
That feeling you had was that funny thing called false energy appearing real, fear. We can make it a grain of sand, or we can make it a
Yeah.
beautiful sand dune. So we have to
Yep.
step back and look and go, are you real or are you not? One of my first teachers, after my second near death, he said, if they're throwing sticks in your way, you know you're probably headed on the right path. The sticks become stones. Now you know you're pretty sure you're headed the right path. And when those stones become a boulder and you go, well, that's it. I can't go anywhere. And you step back and you look and it goes, that boulder just doesn't look right. And you walk up and you try to put your hand up and there's nothing there. And he says, then you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Very well put.
Yeah.
See,
Okay.
Imaginary boulder.
every time I talk with Pat, she is always reminding me or teaching me something new. And it's why I've spoken to her, believe it or not, at some point coming up in, probably we're going to start somewhere in the beginning of next year. We're going to be sitting down, Pat and I, and doing a group of recordings so that we can assemble some of her knowledge, because let's face it, she's old school reader and does things that currently just are not found in our arena much anymore.
Right.
And I told her, I said, you have got to pass that knowledge on to the next one, because even she has seen that a lot of old readers just don't want to share.
Yeah.
Anyhow, here's the second question.
Yes, sir.
Uh-oh.
If you found someone that you were speaking to face to face in a very similar situation, to the point where it was very similar to when you decided to make the jump from your day job to a reader, what advice would you give them? Brenda?
Well, I don't know. I'm well.
Next time you see him, you can pot him one, okay?
Yep. I'll get you, Mike. No, I feel that I don't know that I give advice. There are some times where I feel like, man, I need to say something because there's like a fire in me. That doesn't happen very often, though. That when I think somebody needs my advice without asking for it, I need to check myself. But what I will do is share what experience I have, and where I came from. Even though I'm intuitive, I don't always know it. You know what I mean? Now, if a client is coming to me and asking, that's different. But if somebody is just wanting to talk about this, I would share my experience, what certain things felt like, similar to what we've shared tonight about how I feel right when I'm on my right path, and how I feel when I'm not, and the fear and what is it. So I try to help people identify those things, because it isn't everybody's path to be a reader who's intuitive. I have really, really, really good friends who do amazing work in the corporate world, and you would never know. The people that they're working with would never know, but they do amazing work, and it is totally psychic work, but you would never know that that's what they were doing. So being a reader, and this is where sometimes I question my path sometimes, or if I should take another ramp, because being a reader isn't for everyone. Sometimes psychic work looks completely different than this, and it's somebody's path to go in that direction that isn't so open, even open to everybody about what they're doing or how they're sharing it. Yeah, it can be different.
What about you, Jamie?
That's what I do.
Surprise, surprise. I'm pretty similar with Brenda on this. I would, if they were really asking me if this is something they should be doing, I would tell them that you'll do it when you're ready, and try not to let the fear stop you. And because you're going to be scared, and it's going to scare the hell out of you every other week or something sometimes. But, just follow that gut feeling. I'm not going to tell them to do it. I mean, my best friend, he was telling me for years, he's like, do it. Or he wasn't telling me, but he was letting me know I could do it anytime I want to,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would do. If, I would say, whenever you're ready, you'll be doing it, but just don't let the fear stop you.
Pat?
I I asked them, how often do you get these feelings? Like I said, you'll see somebody and you just and I say, well, do you talk to your friends about it? Have you done readings with your friends? If you use cards, have you try that way? I'm not going to tell you to quit your job and go try to do this, because for many years I did both. I was a good 15 years into being a realtor before I even let this part of myself even, separate worlds. But I would be talking with someone, especially my friends on the phone, and I'm looking at stones in my fireplace and I'm seeing faces and getting messages and whatnot. And I said, how often does it happen to you? If it happens a lot, then you maybe need to look at this. Do your real job, and then just throw this in once in a while. If you're with friends at a party, hey, would you care if I gave you a message? Could I maybe, God, I'm trying. So I got these new cards. I really want to see how they work for someone else other than me. And I said, ease yourself into it. It may or may not. You may find you're not comfortable with this, because it really is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
And that shocks them. They think, oh no, it's all wonderful. And I go, no, it's you're going to get messages sometimes that you don't know how to deliver, or you can't deliver, and you got to figure out some way to give them a heads up without scaring them to death. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I straddled both for a couple years before that second layoff. And then when the second layoff, it was like, all right, so I just kind of went with it at that point. But I was doing both for a little while. Nobody knew.
Sure, because you have to find your way in it. It's going to fit or it's not going to. And some people, it just does not fit at all when they really they'll do it always for friends or family, but they cannot go beyond that little perimeter.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that's still their path. Yeah. Right. So, we're coming close to the end already. I don't know where the time went, but we're close.
It flies right on by.
The end of our show. I wanted to, what's that?
It flies right on by.
Yeah, it did tonight. That's for sure. So I just wanted to acknowledge a couple of comments here. Heather says, Jamie, you are supported by many you have yet to meet, and we are grateful for your contribution. Oh. Joanna says, hey, Brenda. Hey. and we have Carrie says, for real, did you guys just jump into my head today to decide to make this show? No, we were in your head Sunday, Carrie. Yeah.
And you obviously need to hear all this, or we wouldn't be aiming it at you. It's like you go to church on Sunday. Yeah. Why is he singling me out?
Yeah. And Tina says, Michael, I love that this team of which you are a part is presenting this topic. Life path, questioning, finances, discomfort. I guess for me, it's easy to believe one needs to immerse self into her or his own truth. But I think the tricky part is sometimes actually noticing your own truth. So how do you notice your own truth, and how do you help others notice their truth? And I think, Tina, that Mike's last question there really tapped into that. Yeah. It
is. Tina is one of the ladies that I went to school with. I have known her damn near my entire life. And up until recently, maybe a decade ago, we had never had a conversation, just like the rest of us. We didn't have a conversation with or about what I do as a metaphysical kind of person.
Right.
And when she found out, when we finally kind of broached this subject, I was geared, like all of us, I was geared for it's either going to go to hell with a hand grenade, or it's
Yeah.
really going to become something really awesome.
Yeah.
And I remember what she did. Didn't even have any words. She just gave me a hug. And I'm like, oh, that's the kind that melts your heart.
Mm-hmm.
She's an awesome lady.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Tina. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for participating. And gosh, grateful to the panel. This is a fun night. And we missed you, Heather.
Yeah, we do, Heather.
Yeah. So Heather will be back with us next week. We'll be back. And, I don't know what the topic is going to be next week. I think we'll have to talk about that and watch for it on our Facebook page on Terra Turas in Facebook. And we come live. I don't know if we're going to do Facebook Live. Is that what we're going to do, Mike? Every Wednesday night at 8 Eastern. We will be here, and then I guess it will get posted on YouTube after.
Yes.
So
we're going to transition from, everybody can typically have Facebook running on their phone or something. It requires that extra step to go to YouTube. Nice platform, and we will store all of our shows there, and have access to our own website, which is www.terraturas.com. But to be able to interact with a smattering of so many different people, I truly believe that it is, because it's
I think this is a much better platform.
Yeah, all walks of life, all kinds of people, so many different things, and the questions that they'll start to ask or come across. Just awesome.
Very good.
So
we will see. Oh, go ahead, Pat.
Jared. Divine Awakenings is on Tiffin Avenue in Sandusky, and I will be there noon to 5 on Saturday, and I understand that I'm booked the whole time. But I am there every other month. But it's a cool shop. A lot of neat stuff. Metaphysical and otherwise.
Jared's awesome.
And what's it called?
Divine Awakenings. Don't ask me these quick questions. Divine Awakenings.
Don't make her think this late at night.
That's right.
Oh, well, I had a great time. Thank you all. Thanks to panel members. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week.
And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Bye.